Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, today I want to try something a little bit different. We're going to do some technical drawing, but we're going to try to have some fun with it as well. And also kind of start working in the metric system so we can be a little bit more accurate. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to begin the process of drawing this object. So, first things first, we want to do the overall size of it, divide it into different segments, and then put those segments on layers and work with those layers to build the object. So we're going to start off with a circle, and we're going to type the word circle, enter, and then go ahead and push it 0, enter for the center of circle, and the overall thickness of our object here is 40 millimeters. We do 40, enter. And then the overall length of our object is 280 millimeters. So we'll extrude, curve, 280. And then we're going to go to the right view here, and we're going to draw a line right above it. Make sure your object snaps are on. So on a PC, you make sure that object snapped is clicked here. These pop up, and you have the same ones here. If you have a Mac, they will be towards the top there. Just make sure you're using the same stuff as I am. And then also make sure you've got your gumball on, your smart track. Keep it all like mine, even the ortho there. So smart track basically allows you to line things up. So speaking of line, we'll type the line command. And then I'm going to go to the end here, and I'm going to kind of move up. And then I'm going to go to the end over here. And you can see the smart track working when you can see that line. There you go, and click. So now I've got a line that's the same length as the lightsaber. And I'm going to go ahead and divide that up by sections. So let's measure up these sections here. Section 1 is going to be about 8 millimeters. So I'm going to draw a line right here. And then I'm going to use the offset tool, OFFSET, enter. And then I'm going to hit 8, enter. And then I'm going to click on this object and offset it this way. Let's just go ahead and draw another line in the same spot, easiest way, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it straight down. So now I've got that line there, and I can just delete that line. And then I'm going to go ahead and offset for the next segment, which is going to be roughly 125 millimeters. So offset, 125, enter. Click and go this way. And then our next segment will be roughly 45 millimeters. So offset again, or just hit enter brings up the same command. We do 45, enter, click this way, and then go this way. Okay, and then I'm going to go to our second to last part, which will be right here. And we'll do 53 millimeters. Then we've got a smaller section here, which is 15 millimeters. And that brings us basically to the end point here, which we've got another 15. So we can just use the same setting. And then for the top, we've got 32. And that should overlap a little bit. Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are the areas that we're going to divide along. So we're going to split the object. So command split. Click on the object, enter, select all of these lines, and they should all cross through. This one's not going to matter in the end here, but the rest of them do. Enter. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and go back into perspective here just so it's a little easier to see. Right click if you've got a Mac and find your perspective, or PC down here. right click to change your style here if you have a Mac, and if you have a PC, the little drop down window next to the word perspective, switch to shaded. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and just change each one of these into layers. So I'm just going to keep them layer 1, layer 2, because I don't know what the parts of this thing are called. So let's go ahead and change object layer, 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 double click on the little color here. Let's make it a different color. And then we'll add a layer, new layer here, change the color here, cyan or cayenne, depending on how you like to pronounce it, and change object layer. And then why not one more time? Change object layer, change the color, we'll do red. All right, so that gives us a bunch of stuff to work with. I'm going to go ahead and click on this object. Oh, and I'm going to put all of my curves on a new layer too. Just create a new layer and call that layer curves. And then select all the curves and right click and change object layer. And then we can turn off all the layers except for the final one that we want to work on, which is that endpoint. And there's one right there. Change object layer, it disappears. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working on. And you can see my zoom is, or my orbit is kind of going wonky. So I want to click on the object and hit Z for zoom, enter, and S for selected, enter. And now I'm just focused on this one object. So we're going to go ahead and cap this. And we're going to get started. So this object has a couple of points to it. Okay, it's got that interior kind of cap. There we go. Sorry, cap just makes it a solid object. Okay. So as I was saying, it has a couple of points to it. So I'm going to go ahead and fillet the edge just slightly. Fillet edge, and then I'm going to click on this edge here. Or actually, no. First, I'm going to change the radius. Next radius, I'm going to do 0.5, half a millimeter, just a little tiny radius, 0.5. Enter, enter. So that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I want to create an offset surface there. So I'm going to offset surface, enter, click on this, enter. Whoops, that didn't work. Enter brings up the same command. I escaped out. Enter brings up the same command. Control, Shift, click, so that I'm just selecting that surface. And then enter for offset surface. And distance 0.05. I'm okay with that. Okay. No, a little bit more. Control Shift, click, offset surface, and I'm going to change the offset to 1 millimeter. Well, too much. 0.5. Yeah, it was 0.05 before. 0.5 is good. So half a millimeter. And then I'm going to actually create these little kind of ridges for it, some detail here. So let's go to a front view. And I'm going to go right here. Listen up and close. And I'm going to click on the little rectangle tool and hold it down. And then I want to do 3-point rectangle. No. Yeah, center to corner sounds good. Okay, center to corner. So then I'm going to find this little apparent intersection or quadrant of the circle here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to kind of start to drag out. And I don't want it to overlap the red there, so just going to create a little bit of a ridge. There we go. Do not want it to overlap the red. And the reason for that is later on it won't union together as well as we want it to. Okay, so good. Now what we'll do is we're going to kind of play with the scale a little bit. So click on it. Gumball is turned on. I'm going to pull on the red square here and just kind of pull it out a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to control shift and left to right. So control shift or command shift if you have a Mac. Grab the line from left to right. Remember, from right to left grabs everything. From left to right grabs just the area that's highlighted. So I want to just grab that. And I'm going to eyeball this, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know how much it sticks out, but I want it to have a little bit of texture more than that. So I'm going to just go right there. And then I'm thinking I might even round those a little bit so they're not so sharp. So I'll fillet, and this will just be regular fillet because we don't have any uh, solids here. This is just a rectangle, so we'll just fillet regular. And then my radius, I'm going to do 0.01, just trying it out. And then I'm going to click here and here. That's a little too little. So undo, Control Z, enter brings up the same command. I'll do 0.1. Yeah, even more than that. 0.5. Yeah, there we go. Okay, looks good to me. So first thing we're going to do now is go back to perspective here, and we're going to have a look at it. And it's drawn right there. So we want to extrude this, extrude curve, and use the snap to grab this other quad or intersection. All right, that looks pretty good scale-wise. Okay, the next thing we'll do is go to a front view, and we're going to use a new tool, and this is going to be called Array Polar. So let's go Array, whoops, Polar, Array P for Polar. Okay, so I'm going to click on this object that I would like to array, the extrusion. So whenever you click on something, if they're right on top of each other, this menu should come up, and I want the extrusion. The center is going to be the center. So if you hover on the center on the side of a circle, it'll pop up with the letters CEN. When you see that, you can click. If you don't see that, then you don't have the center snap. Okay. The number of them, we're going to have to do this a couple of times. I don't know, 200. So 200 does what? Too many. Okay. Let's click up here. How about 100? I want there to be a little bit of spacing, so I'm going to do 75. Yeah, 75 looks good. Enter. Back to perspective. Okay. Looks pretty good. I almost don't like that these edges are so sharp. Well, so let's go ahead and undo that. I mean, remember 75, right? So let's see. What happens if I fillet edge and then grab this, 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 and this? Will it work? Let's see. 0.5, enter, enter. Nope, doesn't work. Some intersections that aren't looking right. Okay, so let's do it this way. Fillet edge, click, click, click. 0.5, enter, enter. And that works that way. Let's do it again. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and grab the curve and move it to curves. It's not in my way. Okay, so when you fillet something and it doesn't quite come out right, it gives you a cutting blade basically, which is nice. So if I fillet edge and it doesn't work, 0.5, I want to do 0.5, which is what I want to do. I'm going to do it anyway. And then it gives me this cutting blade. What I can do with that is I can split this object, enter, with this object, enter, and I can split this object, enter, with this object, enter. Then I can delete this, I can delete this, I can delete this, and what I have is a surface on the end here that I can join back together to this. So, and now it's all one piece, and it is filleted. So again, fillet edge, this, this, and this, enter, enter, gives me the cutting blade. Split is the command, enter, click on the object you want to split, enter the cutting blade, enter. Then we cut the cutting blade, click on split, enter, click on that. I want to cut that, enter with that. Okay, delete the unnecessary bits. Join. Okay. Okay, so now we've got that shape, and I like it. And we're ready to create our ridges. One thing I do want to do though before I mess with this is I want to pull this in a little bit. So click on it and then grab the green square here and just pull it in slightly, just so it doesn't quite overlap. And you notice when I'm doing that, sometimes the snaps kick in and I'm like grabbing stuff. If you want, you can turn the snaps off. Or if you drag up away from the object so it's not going to hit the snaps, that's even better. And then when I look at it in the front view, I think it might be too close to that edge. I'm going to go ahead and click, oop, make sure it's all joined together. Select the whole thing, join. It's not. Okay, and then I'm going to click on it and I'm going to move it up just a little bit. And scale it in a little bit. And back. No, it's probably fine. Okay, so let's go ahead now and array it. So we're going to use array, polar, click on the object, enter. We're going to find the center, just hover over here, center comes up, click, number 75, enter, enter twice for 360 degrees, a little preview of it there. You can change the number or the quantity at this point. I think it looks good. One more time, enter. Great. So let's go back to perspective here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off this layer here. Then we're going to select the whole thing and use Boolean union. Either click it up here or type it in. Boolean union. So now it's all one piece. Great. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and bring back our first layer here. And let's switch to rendered view. Have a look at it. That looks pretty good. Okay, back to shaded. So the next part is going to be some ridges around this secondary here. So we've got this part, which is our hilt. It has some ridges at the end here. And then it also has some grips around it too. So this is actually going to be kind of a fun part to work on. So let me go ahead and turn this one off and this, then create a new layer for this section here, which I would just call, oops, what do I do with it? Layer 8, move it down to here. Nope. Just delete it and do it again. Layer. color, change object layer. Okay. So we're still drawing on default. And I'll turn this one off, and then we've got this part here. Just like before, this is open, so we got to cap it. And then once it's capped, I'm going to come to the end here, and I'm going to do some metallic ridges on the end here. And that's going to be about, let's say, 12 millimeters in from the end here. So let's do this. Actually, I'm going to just, yeah, I think I'm going to just do this. I'm going to use Taurus. Find the center of my torus. I'm going to do center here. Switch to a front view. Click there and pull out a little bit. And what that did is this. Basically created a donut. So let me do it again. Undo. We have to be in a front view. And or I can do this. I can go to perspective. Easiest way is I can change my construction plane. So switch from standard to C-plane here. Click on set C-plane to object, and then click on that surface. Now the grid is oriented around that surface. And we can do torus, and we can see it three-dimensionally, so it's a little easier for you to understand. So I'm going to hover, so I find the center, and then I go to the quadrant, and then up. So, I mean, I can make it a fat donut, skinny donut. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, right? I don't want to get too close. All right, there we go. Maybe a little more. Still, that's a little too much. So this one I'm not really measuring. This is actually a detail that's not on my kid's toy. It's on one of the real ones. So I'm going to disable my snaps so they don't drive me crazy. Yeah, that's good. Okay. I'll put them back on. All right, so make sure I'm working on the right side here. Yeah, I am. And then I'm going to move these and copy them. So I'm going to just go to a top view here so it's easier to eyeball where I'm putting these. I'm going to just put one right here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and squeeze it in a little bit. So I just shift and scaled the whole thing down. So let me do that again. So if I click on the object and then you got the gumball here and you hold shift, you can kind of scale it to where you want. The snaps are driving you nuts again. Remember, you can disable them. Find the right size. Looks good. Okay. And then if I hit Alt and move and click on this, it duplicates them. See that? So I'm gonna hit Alt, click, 1, enter. I think I need to do Alt, click, 3, enter. Alt, click, Alt click 3, enter. Alt click. Okay. So that gives some ridges. And then I also want to create a little boundary here. So I'm going to select all three of these, kind of move them together a little bit more. And then I want to split this object here from a top view. So I'm going to draw a line and split, split this, enter with this, enter, back to perspective. And then this, I want to offset surface. Control Shift click, offset surface. I'll do 0.5 again. And then I'm going to select just my rings here. So I'll go to a front view. The rings should be the very tippy top. It's very small. Okay. And then from a front view, I'm going to shift and increase the scale a little bit more. So you can see, a lot of this is kind of just playing with the forms. Okay. Okay, so now we've got these ridges on here. Let's do the next part. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this segment here. And I'm going to Boolean union all this together. So it's all one piece. Just select it all, Boolean union. And that should make it all one piece. Once it does, I want to cut the bottom off of this. So that interior of the rings, I don't need those. I just want the exterior. So I'm going to go to a front view. And I'm going to draw a circle. And I'm going to go from the center to the intersection here. Switch back to perspective, find my circle, and extrude curve this way. Okay. And then just Boolean difference. So click on this to keep, click on this to remove. And then click, delete. And now it just cleared out that whole segment on the inside there. So delete those circles and turn back on my layer here. Then the last thing I want to do is offset this surface again. So Control Shift click, offset surface, enter, enter. Okay. And then I'm just going to change the scale of this object. Pull it in a little bit, blue. I gotta turn off my snaps here. Disable, pull in a little bit here. Just that little fine detail also matters. So now move, and I'm going to click from right here. Once I enable the snaps, quad to quad. All right, that gives me that part. Now let's Boolean union this whole thing together, create a new layer. And just click on that. Create a new layer, and we'll call this layer. But I don't want it there. And change the color. Let's do a dark green. Okay. Right click, change object layer. So what we got now is that part. And we can bring back the rest of it just to have a look. Okay, so let's continue right where we left off here. I also want to create. There is a shape at the bottom of the lightsaber. I neglected to put on there. So there's like a little pattern on the bottom here. So let's go ahead and do that next. And I'll do that just by switching to a front. And I'm going to draw this shape, which is kind of like a pill shape. Just do it like this. Rectangle, and then a circle. Then another circle. And then a trim. Select the cutting object, click on that object, click here and here, enter. Enter brings up the same command, and this time we're going to use these two as cutting objects to cut out the center here. Join together. And then I want to actually increase the scale slightly on this. And then shift click and reduce the scale to right where we want it to be. And then I'm going to turn it on its side. And now I'm going to just kind of eyeball it. Kind of right there. And it's a little too big still, just slightly. Okay. And then we're going to polar array again. Array, polar. Array, polar. Click on this, enter, and go to my center. And I'm going to do 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Enter, enter, enter. They're not quite the right size. They need to be bigger. Shift and scale it up a little bit. Okay, array, polar, click, enter, center. Reference point, 360. Thank you. That looks better. So left to right, or click on these objects here. Left to right select. And then we'll go back to perspective, and we're going to extrude all the way through. And then we're going to Boolean difference these out, but I don't want it to go all the way in. I'm just going to go to a top view here. I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to push it back so it doesn't go all the way through. Just deep enough to give it that offset. Okay. Boolean difference. Click on this, enter, and then delete them. And my Boolean union or difference is set up so that it automatically has like it keeps the object. So when I Boolean difference, for example, if I Boolean difference, select the object to subtract from, enter, and then delete input says no. Like if I change it to yes, it will just get rid of them. Okay. All right, next up, let's do a little hilt. Making progress. So this object now, let's go ahead and hide you, and hide this one. All right, so we're going to isolate this, which is, I believe, this layer right here. So I'll get rid of all of the other layers. Go to a front view. Get rid of these, or I can put them on my curves layer. Okay. Curves, put on the curves layer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to offset surface, select this surface, enter, and we're going to offset it that way, and 0.5 is fine. All right. And then what we want to do is we want to just get a chunk of this shape. So I'm going to draw a line, and I believe these are roughly 12 millimeters a piece. So I'm going to draw a line from this midpoint right here, and I'm going to go up, and it is roughly, how tall are these things? It's hard to measure. 4 millimeters. So 4, actually, I'm going to go 5, line from here up, 5, enter. And then I'm going to go back this way, 0.5, enter. I'll go back this way, 0.5, enter. Then I'm going to go down to apparent intersection, and in perspective, I want to check this out and make sure it looks okay. Yeah, sometimes the lines get wonky, they get snapped to something else, but that's actually fine. Perspective, front. So I messed up. Let's go to a front view here, select this object, Control X to cut it because it's already drawn right, but I'm going to go back until there. Go back to perspective. Yeah, okay, I forgot. So I've got to offset just the surface. So Control Shift click that surface, offset surface, enter twice. Okay. And I'm going to actually make it a bigger offset. Offset surface. I'm going to do a full millimeter on this. Okay. And then Control V and paste back in that object. All right. Perspective. Back to front. All right. So once we get to this point, we are ready to draw a line from this side and your endpoint. We're going to go 6 inches or 6 millimeters that way, 6 millimeters that way. And then we'll go straight down, and then we are going to split this object, enter with this, and this, enter. And then we're just going to go ahead and delete all of our lines because we don't need them, except for these ones. And I'm going to just left to right draw a rectangle here. And I think I'm going to go up a little higher, actually. About right there. Not quite science, but it's great. So now, because we split with that line, I should be able to just click on this and delete it. And then we can extrude this rectangle all the way to the end. And then we can cap. Okay, so then after we do that, we can take our objects, just capped it, click on the extrusion, click on this part, and Boolean union. Great. All one piece. Oh, we've got some extra surfaces here. Let's go left to right, select, and delete. Delete. Okay, that's good. Now we need to change a couple of things on this. Didn't quite get this lined up here. Let me see if I just move this there to there. That messes it up. Undo, undo, undo. Okay, fine. Make sure our rectangle is in the right place. Move from mid to not. And then I'll move it down so it overlaps slightly. And delete out extra lines. All right. Now extrude this all the way to the end. Cap this. And Boolean union. And then I'm going to use merge all coplanar faces just to make that all flat. This one does not. Hopefully, oh yeah, it does. It's just I've got that curve I need. Okay. So that, if you've got the geometry right, you'll be able to do this next step. If you don't, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. So I'm going to Control-Shift-click on this polysurface edge, Control-Shift-click on this polysurface edge, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull these out a little bit. Turn off the snaps. Control-Shift-click to try to grab those edges. And then we're going to pull them. Oh, I've got grid snap on somehow. Okay. Like, why is that happening? Turn off your object snaps. Make sure you don't have grid snap on so that you can do this. Okay, now it should work. All right. Control-Shift-click. And then I'm going to actually grab those edges. I'm also going to go to a front view and move them up some. Just kind of almost being sculptural here. Perspective. Okay. And then I'm going to bring back number 10 here. Grab this edge. And we also want to make sure that it sticks up a little bit higher than that ridge. Perfect. Okay. Very good. Now I am going to move this down so that it kind of overlaps this whole part. So if I Control-Shift and click this edge, I'm going to now pull it to where it goes almost to that edge there. Okay. And then I'm going to Boolean difference, select from this object, enter, delete input, no, and then click on this, enter. Isolate, right click, find my thing here, isolate. If you don't see isolate, it is under standard, top here, click, hold, it's right there. Select the objects and isolate them. Okay, I see why this isn't working quite right. I'm going to just do this here. Control-Shift-click, delete, Control-Shift-click, delete, select this, cap. Okay. Now I should be able to Boolean difference it. Boolean difference. Select this, enter, delete input, no, click this, enter. Okay, cool. Now that worked. Great. All right. So what I just did there, just if you're seeing this issue, basically I should have had this area closed out, but when I look at it, it's not closed. If I switch it to rendered, sometimes it's easier to see. So you're seeing the inside of it there. It's got a lip right here. If I Control-Shift-click and grab these two poly surfaces and just delete them, I've got a flat edge there, and I can cap that. And then we've just got a nice solid object. Solid objects are required to Boolean difference, and that's why we had that issue. So Boolean difference. Click on this, enter, click on this, delete input, no, enter. We got them both. Back to perspective and back to our shaded view here. Now let's go ahead and turn back on our layers here. And get rid of our hidden. So if I right click on the light bulb, that one comes back. Okay, now we want more of these. We want 7 of them, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. So we go to we've still got our C-plane set at that edge there, so we should still be fine actually. So if I array polar, that object, I've already got it selected. Make sure I turn back on my snaps, find where one of them says center, click, 7, 360, enter, enter. All right. Some good progress so far. Let's put it back into rendered here and see how it looks. It's looking pretty good. On to the next segment, which is this segment. So let's switch back to shaded. And it's our blue one. So we turn off everything but the blue. Oh, and this one is still on defaults. So let's go ahead and select these and add a new layer. And we'll color that layer violet. Okay. Change object layer and turn it off. All right, so this section here, we've got to cap it out. And we'll do a couple of toruses again. So torus, center, quadrant, a little bit bigger, find the right spot. And then we will control shift click, offset surface, and we will do 0.5 a couple of times. No, you know what? I'm going to do a full millimeter on that one. Okay. And then I'm going to go to top view. And move. No, I'll leave it there. It's fine. And then mirror. Click on the object, enter, find a middle point on this line. Nope, not finding it. So I'm just going to move, or we'll do a copy. We'll do maybe center here to center there. Okay, that worked. Just finding those base points sometimes can be hard. Okay, there we go. And hide that. Boolean union this. Unhide that. Now we've got kind of the shape of this thing we want here. And it has kind of like a button area on top, which is for, I believe, for opening the lightsaber, maybe. Okay, so this one, what we're going to do is we'll go back to a front view, and we'll do another kind of rectangle extrusion thing. And this part is about 18 millimeters. So I'll draw a rectangle, and I'm going to do the center rectangle here. So center, and we'll do 13 or 17, sorry, I said 18 millimeters. Enter. And how far up does it stick? It is about 15. So we'll move it. It's right about there. And we'll switch back to perspective here so we see how it looks. And I'm going to Control Shift click and pull this up a little bit more. Just a millimeter. Okay. Extrude. And Control Shift click, go to a top view. And now I'm going to pull this edge just so it's right in line with that. Perfect. And I'll actually scale it in a little bit. Okay, that looks good to me. All right, so next we'll do perspective here. Front view here, circle. And we're going to go from the center, and we're going to go to this quadrant right here. Click on it, find the curve, go back to perspective, and we're going to extrude all the way through. And we're going to Boolean difference to get rid of part of this Boolean difference. Click on this, enter, delete. And now we'll Boolean union those two together. Okay. Create a new layer. This layer will be our button layer, and just kind of make a color, change object layer. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide this, and delete that, and then bring them back. All right. So the buttons on this, we've got like a little ridge around here too, around the top we're going to do. And, we're just trying to be accurate here. It's important to be accurate when you're doing this kind of stuff. So go to a top view. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to change the C-plane here. Let's go to C-planes, set to object, click on that. Rectangle from here to here. And I'm going to scale it out a little bit. And then I'm going to extrude it. And I'm going to go down 2 millimeters there. And then I'm going to Boolean difference. And I'm going to keep this, get rid of this. Actually, let me just bring it down here a little bit. Boolean difference. Keep this, get rid of this. What am I trying to do here? Let me just draw another rectangle here. And then I'll Boolean union them. Let me pull this in a little bit first. It's too drastic. Turn off the snaps. better. Boolean union. Bring this in a little bit. Extrude it down. Re-enable these. And then Boolean difference. Okay, and then we're going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spheres. So we'll do array. Well, first we'll do a sphere. Find our sphere. Too big. Okay. Put it up here. And then we're going to do an array. Nope, just array. We're going to do 1 in the x direction and 6 in the y direction. And 1 in the z direction. Reference points go from mid. And we just try to kind of find it. Enter. Okay. There we go. And those are going to be a different material, so I'm going to put them on a separate layer by themselves. So split this object with this. Actually, just Boolean difference. Let's just Boolean difference. Keep this. Boolean, 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 Boolean. So that just changes the shape of this to nest those, which is better for later on when we're trying to 3D print. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. This one, just color it whatever. Change object layers. Select object, change object layers. Okay, let's bring back all of our parts so far. And put it into rendered. Getting closer. All right, so looking at it here, I did notice we do have a couple of issues. Well, just one actually. And that's this part right here does need to be adjusted slightly. So if we switch back to shaded, we can see what color that is. And then, yeah, it seems like this one. And then select objects. Is it that one? Yeah, select objects. And then we will go to standard here and then click, hold, isolate. And then I'm going to go Control Shift click, and I'm going to go from left to right with my box here, and I'll just grab those ends. And then I can actually just go ahead and bring back my other objects so I can use it as a frame of reference. I'm just going to pull these down right to where they don't overlap anymore. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, next one is this one. And this one here has a couple of wires. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can isolate it, cap it, and then from there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started first by capping. Cap, cap, single cap. There we go. Z, enter, S, enter. We're zooming into the selected object. And just to kind of frame a reference here, Okay, we do have the wires right here. And then this is where the banding for the end strip starts. I believe right there. And this section here is another offset. So let's go ahead and kind of just go to a front view here. Find our green, select objects, and isolate. Okay, so there's going to be wires that come in um, diagonally from, like, I believe, a 45-degree angle right here. So go from here, shift to remove our ortho, and then I'm going to just come back over here and do a perspective. Actually, let me just draw the shape of them. So it's going to be the same shape I drew earlier, which is just a couple of circles. Rectangle. Circle again. And trim out. Trim, enter, select on the object to cut. Trim, enter, select on the object to cut with, and then enter, cut out the sections, and oops, join it together. And then I'm going to put that one there and copy, and we're going to just kind of eyeball distance there. Go back to perspective, and we will rotate. And we will once again rotate 45. And then we will extrude and line up. So from top view, down where they're going to go. Get rid of the snaps. I just want to kind of freehand them in there. Okay. Let's see how this looks. Boolean difference. Select from this, and this, this. And then Control X. Cut it. Oops. Did not get the other one. Control V. Boolean difference. Okay. I don't know how I'm feeling if these are big enough. So let's bring everything else back. Right click on there. Put it into shaded. Rendered, I'm sorry. Seems too small. Let's make it bigger. So go back into shaded. Go ahead and isolate. Control Z. Control Z all the way back to get rid of the. Okay. And I am going to pull this one 1.1. And then I'll do this one again. Like that, 1.1. You know what? I'm going to do it again. So you're just kind of eyeballing it to see what you think the best spot is for it. Okay, so I think that'll work. I will then go ahead and select these, go to a front view. Let's mirror. Turn our snaps back on. Grab point. And we go Boolean difference. Select the object to subtract from those objects, and then delete. And I'm going to put this actually on a new layer called, and just call it like old geometry. And then turn it off. Okay. Go back to perspective here. Okay, so now we want to put a couple of wires coming from there to there. And the way we do that is a little bit complicated. I'm going to set the C-plane, first of all, right there. Okay. And then I'm going to draw a circle with my object snaps off. Just kind of right there. And then I'm going to draw another one, or actually just mirror that one. Let me draw a line with our snaps back on from midpoint here. Midpoint there. And then I'm going to hide this. Okay. So now I can mirror this from this midpoint here to there. And it should be the same offset. So if I bring back the hidden object, it should be the same. And then I'm going to draw a line straight here to there. And then I'm going to select the line, zoom selected, and I'm going to pull it up with the blue arrow. A little higher. And then I'm going to draw a line from this endpoint to the center there, this endpoint to the center there. And I'm going to measure the diameter. Type in diameter here, there, or measure. What is it? Okay, 1.55 millimeters. So fillet radius 0.78. Actually, fillet 0.5 is fine. So I'm just rounding that a little bit so that the wire looks right. So join that together, and then I'm going to pipe. Select my here, then click that, and then just hit enter, enter. Oops. Missed the join. Gonna join that too. It's gotta be all one piece. Okay. Pipe. Select the curve. Pipe. Select the curve. Enter, and then it asks you like the radius basically. So select that. Enter. Right. So now when we bring everything back, we see it didn't quite go up high enough, huh? Well, we just kind of pull it up here. Around a little bit. And then we're going to extrude the surface to a boundary. So extrude surface. And then I got to get kind of underneath. Control Shift click U. Control Shift click U. And hit enter. And then see, look, there's two boundary. If I click this surface, boom, it extrudes to that boundary. So now I can Boolean union. Boom. Okay. So I got that one. I will Alt and duplicate it by grabbing the gumball. Okay. And then in order to get it to the other side, we simply go to our front view and right click on our layer here, select objects, click and go ahead and isolate. And some of you remember isolate is up here in the, you click and hold on the light bulb. Okay. And then select our objects, mirror, go from the midpoint, and click like you're drawing a line. Perspective, okay. Everything back. I don't know. I kind of still feel like it's too small, but if I wanted to, I could change that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. And because these are wires, they're going to be different colors. I'm going to put these two on the same layer. And we'll go chartreuse. Okay. And these two be on another layer too. Turquoise. Okay. Back to shaded. Oops. Change object layer. Okay. So now all we got to do is the end here. All right, so putting it back into perspective and stuff, we want to make sure that we go back to our C-planes and set our C-plane to a top view, which is right here. And that just puts things back to normal. And we're all zeroed out here. Okay, so this area right here is going to be the beginning of the very top of the lightsaber. So we're going to start off with a offset surface and isolate it. Actually, let's isolate it first. Sorry. Okay, isolate. And then I can cap. And then we go ahead and Control Shift click, offset surface. And this dimension is a little bit bigger. It is about 5 millimeters for this offset. 5. Okay. And then goes all the way around. And at the top of the hilt, or not the hilt, well, I guess it's considered a hilt, right? I believe. Show you. There's a little rectangular part that kind of protrudes back, and that's where it attaches to the belt. So let's make sure we're doing it on the right side here. So it will be actually the bottom down here is where that rectangular part should be, I believe. Yes. So that's going to be, um, and I've kind of diverged. I've been looking at other research and stuff to try to get this more accurate than the toy that I've been playing with. But um, one of the things was they had the hilt connection the wrong spot. Okay, so if I just go to a top view here and draw a rectangle, and I'm going to it goes a little bit bigger than the overall, and it protrudes back. So it is, actually, no, it goes out just right there. Yeah, so it's yeah, this is about accurate here. Okay. All right, yeah, I'm gonna call that about right. Isolate these ones so I can see them together. Um, yeah, because there's actually also going to be another section here. So I'm going to do a rectangle, but I got to set my C plane to the object. I'm going to do that object, do a rectangle, and I'm going to do coming out the middle there. And just Boolean difference. Keep this, enter, get rid of this, enter. Okay. Now I go back to my rectangle. I should be able to find that midpoint there. So midpoint. And I'm going to turn on my near here so I can just kind of like this. Okay. And then I'm going to extrude this out. It goes about to there. Okay. Boolean union these together. Actually, Boolean difference first to get rid of that section. Keep this, get rid of this, and then they should match up. Okay. Merge. And Boolean union these. Oops. And then I'll bring back Change the object layer to the orange layer. And we'll Boolean them together. Merge. Okay. And then other parts of this, we've got a little, oh, and I did mention that this is supposed to go on the other side, but it shouldn't be a problem just to flip it around. Okay. And actually, this is supposed to be kind of rounded at the end there. So let's make that T rounded. Circle, we go from mid. Oh, reset our C-plane to the top. Circle. From here to there. And then isolate these two. And I'm going to actually move, enter, midpoint, extrude it down. No, we're going to do this. Line, quadrant to quadrant, split the circle, cutting edge. Select this for the cutting edge, enter, trim. This is the cutting edge, enter, trim that off. Okay. And then extrude down, back up a little bit. Then we'll split this with, or wait, sorry, this with this, enter, split this with this, enter. Split this with this, enter. Join these two together. Change back the layer. Change object layer. Okay. And delete out the lines there. Okay, so now we'll bring it all back. Looks pretty good. All right. So now we just have to add the little tab here and and then that'll be it for this. So again, set our C plane to the object right here, and I'm just going to draw a circle, and I'm going to do it on this edge here, so that I know it's in the middle, and then I can always move it. And then I'm going to move it, and I'm actually going to scale it in a little bit. So Shift Scale. Okay. And then I'm going to extrude this curve, tapered, T, enter. And I'm going to bring it up at a 20-degree angle. So change the draft angle to 20. And right about there. And I'll cap it. I think that's not quite right. So I'm going to scale it up a bit. And then I'll look at it in context here real quick. Let's bring everything back. Okay, looks pretty good. And then fillet, edge. And I'm going to do a little bevel to this. Just like that. All right, and then I'm going to Boolean union these two together. Okay. Let's see how it looks so far in rendered. Okay. And I'm just going to go up to edit here and go to select objects, curves, and delete those curves. I don't want them anymore. And I might do a couple other things like fillet edge here, just soften this edge, these little edges here that are kind of sharp. Just a little bit. Shift click and grab all of these. Did I get them all? I did. Fillet edge. Okay. Just making it a little softer. Great. So that's that next part. And yeah, we're working our way to the end here. So the end part we've got right here. This piece and this piece basically should go together and just have a diagonal cut. So I'm going to go to a right view and I'm going to draw a line from this point here to that point there. Quad, quad. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull it a little bit. Oh, by the way, I've got my gumball set right now to object, aligned to object here, and that's why when I click on it, it aligns with the line there. It makes it easier to scale. Because I'm also going to offset these surfaces. Half a millimeter. Back to my right view. Then I'm going to split. Actually, you know what? I want to do it bigger than that. Offset. Actually, let's go ahead and join these back together. Now that I've got that line there, let's just join them. Okay, and then we'll offset surface. Select surface to offset, enter, and I'm going to do 1 millimeter. Well, I guess I did cap these, huh? Control Shift click. Control Shift click. And I'm going to just delete that interior part there. Back to the right, split. Let's blend these together real quick here. Boolean union, all one piece. Go ahead and merge all color interfaces. Split this object with this object, enter, and then we can get rid of this. And now we go back to perspective. And we can cap it. Oops. Cap, Control Shift click, delete. I think it's a little thicker. Yeah, it's about 3 millimeters actually. Okay. We'll do 3 millimeters. Control Shift click. Let's isolate these 3 objects. And then let's go ahead and extrude. And from the front, D for direction, click, click. There we go. Back to perspective. And just move it over onto that line. And then, all right, C plane. I'm going to go ahead and change this back to world. Perspective. Move it back ever so slightly. Actually, no. I gotta move it back. I'm actually going to just grab that face and pull it a little bit. It doesn't matter because I'm splitting it anyway. Split this object with this object. And delete, delete, we'll hit cap. Yeah, that worked. Okay. Back to shaded and let's now bring this line back here a little bit further and split the red part out. This part here with this line here. Delete that because I'm just going to give it the illusion of going back in space. Cap this. Okay. That way, if we wanted to 3D print it, it would be a little bit more sturdy. And we will Boolean it together. Change object layer. Back to the red. Move our C-plane in the C-planes window. Back to top. And let's see how it looks rendered. Oh, and actually this is supposed to go rotated the other way. And the final detail is actually a nut that comes out of the top right here for the hilt attachment, which we will do by just going to the top view here. And we'll draw a circle. I'm just going to do it here because this is all nice and centered already. And I can line it up, just moving it right there, back to perspective. extrude it down. Top there. Draw another circle. Or actually, I don't even have to draw another. Got this one. I can just grab it and scale it out with Shift. Holding Shift. Pull it out. Extrude it up. This one also needs to be bigger too. Shift. Pull it out. And Boolean union these two together. And this one too, why not? And then fillet edge. And some fillet. Okay, so that does it for the modeling portion. Next up, we can add some materials, really make this thing look great. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing going here. Um, so we've got a few different materials here we want to use. I'm going to add some here. I'm going to do some paint first of all, and I'm going to do some black paint just to, or I mean, plastic and paint, really what's the difference, right? Plastic here, it's got a little bit of a different kind of quality. Move down the reflectivity. So that's under the materials tab here. Type the word materials if you don't have that. And I'm going to do black, but not quite all the way black. I don't want it to be dead black. And then I'm going to go back to my my materials layers here, and I'm going to select certain layers. So if I go to shaded, I can see this color one here. Select objects, and then this one is also black up here and right there. So we've got this kind of brownish color. Select objects. And the red is also going to be the black color. So is that yellow. So this color, select objects, and then the red is this one here. Select objects. Okay. So then we go back to materials and we go to right click and assign to objects. Let's look at it in shaded or in rendered here. Okay. Great. And then we've got some chrome and some other metal here as well. Let me just actually lower the reflectivity even more. Make this kind of very matte feeling. And I'll bring it into a cooler zone too. All right. And then next up, we've got some chrome. So let's bring in metal. And we can just click and drag and drop. Click and drag and drop. And I'm going to go ahead and add another one. And I'll do a metal again. In this one, I'm going to lower the reflectivity of it a little bit here. Do that on this, and that on this. And these ones are kind of like a glass, right? So we'll do another one, and we'll do glass. And I'm going to make it kind of like a bluish glass, maybe. So color, blue. This one, I'm going to do just like a white paint and a red paint for the other. Then actually, I'm going to explode this whole thing right here because I want to grab just the part right here, join this back together, and assign that to the object there. Then I got to make sure I join everything back together up here. So let me just grab all this, make sure I got it. Grab the layer. It's red. Select those objects and then control to deselect that, or command if you've got a Mac. Join that back together. Okay. Just got to keep it clean. Okay. Back over here to rendered. It's looking pretty good. So now all I want to do is I'm going to do some render settings so I can actually get a good render for it. So go to my render properties here, and then I'm going to change some settings here. So I'm going to do actually a little higher resolution, 16 by 9. I'll do draft quality, good quality. I can do good quality. That's fine for me because I can do it, but draft is sometimes fine too. Backdrop solid, environment, I'm going to put studio environment. Ground plane, I'm going to do a ground plane settings, and I'm going to use a material. And material I'm going to use maybe like this black plastic, I think. Yeah, reflectivity all the way up here. Okay. Okay. Cool. So it gives me some studio lights and stuff like that. And we can see what it looks like just by putting it into ray traced or doing a full rendering. So I'm gonna do a ray traced right here. And find a cool angle, right? We want to we might even want to grab the whole thing and rotate it a little bit. And there we go. Let me render it and I'll show you what the final outcome is.